Yeah, I think there are aspects that we need to dwell upon is how do we get these females, first of all, the women to get attracted to the workplace. There is a comfort zone that we need to create within the workplace. How do we retain them? Can we give them a better working environment so that they are able to communicate and shuttle between work and life? They have an important role. As I said, I thoroughly believe in the fact that they have as big a role to play at home as they do at work, and they're doing a much bigger job than we folk are. So I think giving them that environment, that ability, that's not an issue. I have two examples in that. One is that we have a logistics and trucking division. I have 51 40-foot trailers that go up and down Sohar, Fahoud, and to interiors Oman. 31 of the drivers are locals, 21 are expats. And can you guess who's in charge of the trucking operations? Zakia. She's from Barka. She's been with me for nearly 20 years. Drop out of school, but went through the education programs within the company, and she's doing that right now. She's the head of trucking and logistics. So just to say, I think what we need to create is to create that environment first and to encourage them to work at work.
Excellent. And basically, I don't know about in the other sectors, but I know in the financial sector, there are quite a few women in the financial sector. I don't know if it's because of it's being well paid or whatever, but I think Iman, you can probably touch. It's Iman, right? You're gonna touch base on the same.
I would like
discussion.
to talk more about Women Association. You know, see, when we joined banking back in 90s, and they were again encouraging us as individual Omani to participate. It was more easier to tackle it with women. That's why you see, when you go to banks, administration, clerk, branches, mostly more than 55, 60 are women, because it is a very open environment, and many of parents allow girls and women, even husbands, allow to go in bank because it's easier. It's more like government, but well-paid one. So when we say about banking, I think banking is the right platform for women to work in. But let me just talk about Omani Women Association. See, Omani Women Association have got a very critical role to empower women. And part of our initiative is to empower women in 4 different directions. I'll talk about 2 directions because this is what we're working now, is to make women to participate in shura and municipality race. And we asked them to come and participate in program. We have really a very program. We right now we are trying to launch a program that it will gonna build those women. Please, who thinks she can be part of Shura or Majlis al-Baladi.
Can I just break you for a second? How many of you here in this room today would consider running for parliament? Can you raise your for Shura? None. Okay, one. Ghada, can you just stand up? Can someone just...
One.
Yeah, can you just tell us why you would? Because I think this is very important to understand your role as the association, Ghada.
Well, I don't think I could, literally, because my Arabic is not fantastic. But if I had the chance, I would definitely, because I'm not one of those, I'm a very undiplomatic person.
Is a language a barrier?
Yes, of course, because again, you are a representative community.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But for me, I am a very undiplomatic person.
But there's always a solution. She's interested.
I could take a translator with me.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I'm not a very diplomatic person. I'm straight to the point. And I think that's what's lacking a lot of the time is that people are very politically...
Correct?
Yes, or incorrect.
Yeah.
And I think for that purpose alone, I would like to be able to voice the opinions of what the majority of the people think.
But I'm sure there are workshops to help people like Ghada.
There will be workshops. But what we start is, let's say that, you know, the unfortunate news for me was When I ran for Shura as a candidate, we are about almost 76 women. This year, after 4 years of the experience, we just have 11 women in Sultana. So there's a big drop. And most of us who, when I asked them why you don't run, he said nothing have changed. See, being in a political position, you have to be a highly social person. You have to involve yourself in the social platform and forms. Like if you're attending a networking, you go to ministries' functions. You have to be in wilayat functions. You have to be present to your people. People be able to be in contact with you. They be able to talk to you. I remember one lady her name is Hood, Allah yarhamha, if you remember her.
Yes.
She's a very involved, she was really highly involved person. Any committee that's to do with the society, she's around.
Yeah, but I think what Lubna was saying earlier, you said you need to remain positive. You need to kind of, I'm not going to say this in a sort of fight for your own battle. Don't expect the regulators or the government
you have to engage yourself.
You need to be a go-getter.
I think you have to engage yourself with community.
Yeah.
If you want to be a leader, again, as a candidate or a person representing community, you have to be a high leader, inspiring, motivating to others, because we look at you as a person who's going to represent us. Also, you have to be a social person, highly social person, because many people will come to you, women and men. Men will look at you and give you the first glance, do I trust her? If he doesn't, he will change about 1,000 people. But if he said yes, okay, he will bring in 10,000 people. You have to understand this type of game. In terms of what Omani Women Association is trying to do, we are sitting next week and we're bringing up a program that will be managed by one of the United Nations. He's a Minister of Social Affairs as a doctor. He will try to build within Omani Women Association how we're going to build our initiatives, how to build the leader in Omani Women Association. Because what we found in earlier days, many leaders, women leaders, came from Omani Women Association. But for the last 15 years, we failed to do this role. So we resit again, sit down in Omani Women Association and say, what is our plan in 2020? How many women will graduate from Academy of Omani Women Association and be a representative of women? And this will be our really on the top of our agenda as a goal. In terms of
can I ask you, how is the private sector supporting the association?
I will come and meet you, please. I need money.
No, you're most welcome.
It's very tough. It's very tough because see, what I'm coming from a business sector, and many would, as I said to you, I'm a graduate from a strategy institute, and what we know that if you go to any institution as a banker or oil field, they will ask you, what is our benefit? What is the return of our investment? If Omani Women Association is not able to set in the return of an investment, they will never involve, that organization will never involve their money in that process. What we are building with the Omani Women Association currently is to ask our participants, those are future leaders, how you can bring the engagement of the private sector within Omani Women Association. We are turning it from a charity institution to non-profit organization. And building that institution is the process, and I cannot do it as myself as a president. I have to use the secret word, inspire, motivate, encourage.
Thank you, Iman. Thank you very much. Do you want to touch upon the question about women in leadership positions and how it can affect the national agenda, etc., from your point of view?
When I think of women in leadership, we bring onto the table a complete different perspective. So it's really important to have women in leadership positions. If not anything, is just to open the doors for other women to feel comfortable enough to actually do the same. Being in Standard Chartered Bank for 8 years, I had actually dabbed into different roles. So rather than trying to grow horizontally, it was vertically. So getting into different roles, priority banking, customer service, corporate affairs, everything I can pretty much, it was like a cookie jar. Everywhere my hand was just in there. And what I found is it's like you actually do your best when you get into unknown territories. And once you reach to a position, by the grace of Allah, it's really important to be able to be in a position to help others. So create that environment. It's just tuning on to what Iman was saying, is to empower and inspire people. Right. Yeah, so in terms of that perspective, trusting your gut, it's a good thing that we are here today. I mean, we are amongst like really inspirational women, starting with Sayyida Sharifa and Zainab as well.
Nasha, do you want to touch upon that? Or?
I think I'll just add one thing to that. Basically, I think it's very important that women represent themselves in all sectors, whether it is, in government, in all different sectors. We need to fight our battle, as Iman said, and Lubna, because I don't think we're a priority to men. So, we know our own issues, so we're there to fight for them. So, and one example, that I think comes out strongly is, for example, in Ministry of Justice, or, all the judges we have are men. I think we need women judges to be understanding our issues.
We have a lawyer here who we hope will become a judge one day.
So, yeah, I think that would be important because again, this is just hearsay and what we know of, but you generally get the feel that things always lean to the man's side, and maybe one of the reasons is we have only male judges. So,
right. Thank you. How are we doing in terms of time, organizers? Am I okay? Okay. So should I ask the poll question now? Is there one, or in particular, or the first one first? Do you feel women take a longer time to reach higher positions as compared to men, and the result? Yes. Interesting, okay. I'm really interested to know somebody who's answered yes from the audience, if you could tell me why. And if the organizers can help me get a microphone out to the audience, if you don't mind. Can't see any hands up. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, just if I may comment on something with Majlis Shura. I always believe that one of the biggest problems women have is that a woman is her own enemy. I've said that in other conferences. And women tend to not support each other. I've noticed that. They're too competitive and they just want to reach there, but they just throw the other women aside. I used to head the Businesswomen's Forum in the Chamber of Commerce, and some of you know that. And I really got very, very little support from women. Unfortunately, I think a woman knows deep down that if she were to run in a high, place like in Majlis Shura or wherever, she needs all the help she can get. And as Nashia, my sister, said, men are not here to fight for our battles. We need to fight our own battles. We need to stand up for ourselves. Having women judges. I mean, we already have, mashallah, Lubna CFO, amazing. We have a CEO from the Emirates, amazing, that's great. Many years ago, we wouldn't think we would reach this place, but we have. So well done, women, well done to all of us. We have done it. I think it takes longer for women to reach for some of these reasons that I said. And I think we need more encouragement. The government does encourage, His Majesty, our biggest example, role model, Allah yahfadhu yatawal famro, has always been there for us.
Zainab, do you know that Zainab bin al-Imarat? Well done on your speech, first of all. Did you know that we have an Omani Women's Day dedicated to us by His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, October 17th? We are one of the few countries in the world that support women from the top. So yeah, I think Lubna has something to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this women's support thing. I think all of us as female leaders in our own right are responsible for not only progressing ourselves, but also our colleagues, whether they be male or female. I just want to give you an example that in Amran, which is the company I work for, we had basically an awards ceremony with Al Mar'a where 4 of the women won awards at that event, which is just representation of what sort of corporate culture we're trying to harness. Within my team at Amran, 50% of the finance team are females, and this was a deliberate move on myself, regardless of the resistance that I faced. And I feel that as a female leader, I'm responsible to make sure that the women within my team are given the opportunity to grow. We have females at the chief level, including myself. We have females in the director level, senior managers, managers, all the way through the organization. And if we don't take that step to take a chance on someone else who we believe in, then who's going to do that, all right?
Thank you, Lubna. Basically, I think what you're saying is it's a responsibility of female leaders to enrich and inspire young executives. I also think it's important about the fact that we have mentors. This is what we lacked personally in my previous organization, but again, it's the responsibility of a leader or a manager. So thank you, Lubna, for that. Should we go on to, nobody answered me, why do you think that it takes longer for women? Somebody who answered, thank you very much. Could you introduce yourself, please? Sorry.
Yeah. This is Nalima Vyas with Sohar Pot and Free Zone. I did belong to the C-suite, presently as the director. I think there is a typical framework that is expected of women. Lubna touched upon the Anglo-Saxon framework. And when you don't meet that, most often people don't want to risk women because you're not belonging to that structure. I have to commend Pankaj, who says he stepped out of that framework, accepted a woman, because coming from the infrastructure background where you don't see women very much, as a chief operating officer, I have to share with the audience today, it's a very difficult task. We believe in ourselves, we know we are able to deliver, but to get that belief from a board or from the other senior colleagues is a Herculean task. I think it's a glass ceiling.
It is a glass ceiling, so we still face them. Thank you. Anyone else from the audience would like to? Okay, one more, okay. Maimuna? Oh, there's someone in the back. Sorry, I didn't see. Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, this is Senia from Aster Hospital.
Hi, Senia.
Yeah, basically I think the reason is because we as women, we're just not leaders for our organizations or for our being small entrepreneurs, but we have to act as leaders at our home as well. So probably that's one of the major reasons, because we've got, we are stuck with, at some point of time, because we always have behind our back that our husbands, our mothers, fathers, children are all so very important for us. So I feel that's one of the major reasons probably we are not able to limp as fast as men.
Thank you so much. I think, is there another answer, or should I? Okay. Which leads me to my next questions. Thank you for sharing that. I do agree that many of us are super women around here because we like to be, I was just telling my panelists right now, I just came from home. My son Mohammed had put a bandage of Scooby-Doo on my hand. So you can just imagine coming here for a serious event, and I had a sick son at home. Nevertheless, let's move on to the next question, which is about work-life balance. It's a universal discipline that people address women about work-life balance, but very rarely do they ask men about that balance. So, Pankaj, Mohammed Al-Arayan, the former CEO of the trillion-dollar firm PIMCO, he resigned because his daughter wrote him a letter saying, "Dad, please resign. I want to spend more time with you." So, Pankaj, could you share your point of view about this?
I think Mohammed found out a bit too late. Obviously, he was ignorant to the better things in life, that is family. No, I think it's very important that to share a proper work-life balance. I certainly do. I feel that women at work have a much more difficult job at hand in order to balance that work life, and especially when they have young children. I'm sympathetic towards it, and that's why I believe that having flexi working hours would be the right way to address that situation. What is also important is that most of us do not really spend as much time with young children as we do with our friends and extended family, and our priorities sometimes get a little distorted. Definitely the person that I'd like to be inspired by, or I'd like to be doted upon by is my children. If I am not a leader in the eyes of my children, then I haven't got my priorities right. And I think that's most important. And it should be the case not just for mothers, but it should be the case for fathers as well. And I think that's most of my, all my holidays are family oriented. Now when they don't want to take a holiday with me, I do take my own holiday. But otherwise it's always family-centered, family-centric holidays. It's an upbringing thing, it's a value-based thing where you do inculcate value, and I think that's more important. But again, coming back to work, women need to be given the flexibility of coming to work. They need to be given flexibility when nursing children, as you rightly said. And I think we need to get this across to the Ministry of Manpower. I don't know whether there's a women's association who can and herald this. I don't think Ashura is the right body to take a decision on it. It's the Ministry of Manpower who does.
So when you grew up throughout your career, I mean, I'm sure, did you ever feel guilty as a father? You know, we always feel guilty when we're at work. You know, I'm thinking of my son, my daughter.
No, I had a very good wife who told me what my duties were.
Sorry?
I had a very a strict and a very regulatory wife who told me what my duties were, so I followed her advice. And I was there at most parent-teachers meetings. I have attended every one of their plays and graduation ceremonies, so no, I'm not as guilty.
You're not as guilty. You're not as guilty. Thank you very much.
Having done what I did.
Nasha, would you like to touch upon the subject of work-life balance?
Well, I think as we had discussed it last week when we were in the office, when that question came up, all the women were like, what work-life balance? It is a very difficult thing to tackle for women. And you know, as it was funny when Pankaj said, no, I didn't. I don't think there's any woman who could say that. Because I think all women carry that guilt when they're working. They're constantly thinking about what's going on at home, and where it's a very difficult balance. But you know, I think you just have to make the time. I mean, weekends, obviously. I try personally to do things when they go to bed, so that's one thing. So you know, I'm guilt-free. Like, you know, if I'm gonna go out, I like to do that after a certain hour when they're asleep, and just try to spend as much time when I'm not at work with them. And yeah, that's about it.
So do you think it's more about the quality of time you spend with your kids rather than quantity? You know, there may be some mothers sitting at home, but they don't spend that or that, I don't know.
And
because as
you know, it's good you bring up that point, because I think in the times when I wasn't working, I wasn't spending quality time, because you take it for granted, you're always there. Mm-hmm. But when you're working, you really, you know, you come home and you have those few hours and you make more use, you make them more productive. Right. And the other thing, actually, I think it's very important for women. I don't know, you know, men don't have this issue, but women to have a supportive husband, because without having a supportive husband, it's very difficult to be out there working. So if you're a single woman here, choose wisely. You know, your career is at stake, so. Choose well, because yeah, I mean, it really can affect your life, basically.
True, true. But we're very grateful that we have a very supportive family system in the East, you know, versus the West. When you see our fellow friends, they're really struggling much more than here. Here you have the grandmother is fully engaged, or the grandparent, if not the husband. So thank you. Inshirah, do you want to share from a single woman's perspective about what it's like?
All right. So when people normally talk about work-life balance, a lot of the times they refer to, you know, having kids at home. But even as a single person, you do have other responsibilities. You have your social obligations, your family obligations. You actually have an obligation to yourself, because when we talk about work-life balance, no one really brings up myself as well. It's always, oh, I have my kids, I have my work, but if you don't take care of yourself, no one's going to take care of you. And as a woman, we're more prone to taking care of other people all the time and putting their needs first, rather than putting ours first. So it's very difficult. Gone are the days when you can actually come home at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, rest, and then have your days planned. But now, especially working for the private sector, a lot of the times you're out of work by 5 or 6, giving you a small window of time to do everything that you need to do for yourself and for your family. So it's definitely tough, but it is doable. You just have to make the time.
So you prioritize your life. Excellent. Yeah. Iman, Lubna, either one of you would like to wrap it up with this question? Yeah.
I mean, if I give myself as an example, I'm quite meticulous in my time management. So I try to make sure I'm home by 5. 5 to 7 is my kids' time, and we either dance or play or swim or whatever it is. It has to be something fun so that I'm not the evil, Knievel disciplinarian all the time. But I think also, and Shirah touched on time for yourself, which I think is really important. And it's being clear with your employer that you need to set your boundaries of what you want to do. So for example, just myself as an example, every 8 weeks I try and make sure I have a long weekend, so I make sure I take a break, and if it's with my kids or if it's on my own, I schedule in time for myself as well. And I think as women, we need to be responsible for our mental stability and our health, and if you can't hold up the fort, then no one's going to do it for you. So.
Thank you, Lubna. So I guess wellness is the key here. Panelists, thank you so much for your time and your inspirational input in the subject of women in the workplace. We'd like to just finalize with the second poll question, which is, do you think flexi timings affects productivity? And the answer is, results? No. 55, yes, 45. Interesting. I just want to end on that note. I don't know if you guys heard of Marissa Mayer. She's the CEO of Yahoo Group. And basically, she was hired as a CEO, and they knew that she was pregnant. So within that time frame. And one of the things about her, read about her if you're interested of becoming a CEO, inshallah. You don't need to be a CEO in Oman, you can be CEO globally. Is she actually removed flexi hours from her company, which caused a lot of controversial amongst women. So read about flexi hours and the productivity level of organizations. There's some interesting reports out there. Mr. Pankaj, Inshirah, Nashia, Lubna, Iman, thank you very much. Thanks.